little delay, and I also noted. So the video will be little delay.
Okay.
But that
Where is my bag?
will be the same.
Where is my bag?
Yeah,
Just
I'm unable to read it.
oh, I get it. Can you just give me the bag?
Would we be able to see it? I'm not able to
That's my question.
see that.
No, he's increasing the font.
Size,
Not
sir.
even, yep.
Font size.
Yes.
The laptop. One problem is that the
This one size is fine.
Yep, this I can read. How about you, Professor?
Yeah, I can.
Which one?
Regarding right now.
yeah.
That should be fine.
Yeah.
I think regarding.
This side.
Mobile is
That thing can be detached.
Can move as far as
Because we are very far away from.
Oh, I am very far away.
No, sir.
Ah.
As I was asking whether we can detach that keyboard and keep it on our lap or something.
Oh, this one.
This one.
Oh, this one.
In
Do
case
we
somebody
want to
needs
type something?
type it.
something, yeah.
Okay, if that is possible then.
Oh, do we have
As
to
and
use
when
that?
required.
No, do we
On
need
the
that?
chat, sir, if you want to chat
If you
and
want to write.
something over there,
Oh,
Do we need to write
it's-
there or do we need to speak?
we need to speak.
Speak on.
Then
This we just typed right now. So like this, if we have to prompt them, then alone we need that.
Okay.
Yep. Whenever you're ready. It's already live, is it? Okay. Good evening to all. Welcome to this live session, live interactive session. You know, four of us here, GK Suraishkumar, Edamana Prasad, Professor Edamana Prasad, Professor Kalmarkar, Dr. Richa Verma. And the one you may not have seen so far is Steffi Jose, who handled everything backstage, effectively handled everything backstage. So this is the team that took care of the course. The
video is not clear.
video is not clear. Okay, that'll come through. We'll keep speaking. I think we are live.
let them. So, is the audio clear?
Everything is fine. We can continue. It's fine. Yeah, let me continue. Yeah, that's right. Okay, the course by itself, just to give you a summary, we started out with an inexperienced engineering teacher's view of teaching or facilitation of the learning. At that stage, it is not there. Then we looked at from traditional lecturing to helping students learn. Then it was what is better learning all about. One way of looking at it was Bloom's taxonomy, and that's how we looked at Bloom's taxonomy, which is a very popular taxonomy of learning objectives. And then extension of traditional lecture to include the learning aspects. We said that problem-based learning is an easy way of doing that. And we also looked at problem solving on the side, because that's an important aspect for engineering students. Then we, Dr. Prasad looked at learning outcomes. And then we saw some techniques, evidence-based techniques, well-established techniques that can improve the learning of students, such as active learning, cooperative group learning, and flipped classrooms. And then we looked at some aspects of effective lab courses. And then Dr. Richa Verma gave her session on evaluation and assessment. In the last week, we looked at how we could use research in education, because the second major aim of the course was to bridge the gap between the huge amount of information, learning-based learning information out there, and the teachers who are not trained to look at those. They're all research-based things. And so this course was going to bridge that gap. So we looked at that gap. How can we use research in education? First was class composition, which was some of the work that I had done. And then established aspects such as psychological type and learning, models of cognitive development, learning theories, and so on. Then the course, the final aspect was given by Professor Karmalkar, who looked at feedback and reflection. What I wanted to say before I open up the floor to the others is this gives you some aspects, some techniques, strategies, and so on and so forth for improving learning. If you use aspects that suit you, I mean, everybody has a personality and certain techniques suit the personality. If you choose such things that suit your personality to improve the learning process as a first step, and then try out the other things, that would be the most effective one. We don't look at trying out everything that is given here. You're free to do that and then choose whatever comes to you easily, naturally, and so on and so forth. That is what is going to be the best. Also, another aspect that I wanted to mention was there was some difficulty with the examples being biotech related. They were biotech related because they had to have some engineering flavor. Math has a slightly different flavor for some of the involved aspects as examples. Even if you look at Bloom's taxonomy, the kind of questions that you'd look at from a math background would be not so easily mappable to what you'd look at from an engineering background. And that's the reason I chose biological engineering examples. And that also brings in all my experience into it in the background. However, the content of the examples themselves are not of much concern. It's the principle that we were looking at. I was trying to illustrate for example, the various levels of Bloom's taxonomy by the kind of question. So even if you didn't understand the content, that was perfectly fine. I had mentioned this quite a few times during the lecture itself, but I thought I would mention it again because there was some level of difficulty there. I think that died down. I think the first week or so there was some difficulty, and then people got used to it. No content, no biotech content-based questions would ever be there, as you would have seen in the assignments themselves. If I have any other thing, I'll come back later. I'll open up the floor for Dr. Prasad, Dr. Karmalkar, and Dr. Richa Verma in that order if you want to say something.
Okay, hi everyone. I have taken a session on designing learning outcome. So I'm here basically to know the outcome of that session. If you have queries or concerns or more clarification needed or having a discussion, I'll be here to spend some time on that. If you can, some of you can just type something. I'm getting the feeling that I'm talking. I just believe GK that there are so many people there and I'm talking. If you can type something on the screen, that would have been really good. Are you able to hear us?
They'll have to say it through the
comment. Type yes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some response.
Can you just type yes? All of you, please type yes. That you can hear us.
Or at least a few.
So it looks like there are 200.
Number is there?
0 and 2.
0 and 2.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Very
okay.
nice.
Oh,
Good.
great.
Good.
We have got one.
That's fine. That gives us hope to carry on. Go ahead.
No.
No, I just look forward to your questions. I would welcome your questions on whatever we have done in this course.
You're audible. Very nice. Okay. Yes, Richa.
Hello, everyone. Same here. As Professor GK mentioned, I took one session on assessment and evaluation, as well as rubrics. I'm happy to answer any questions and take the discussion further.
Okay, now we wait for some questions and then we answer.
Okay.
That's how it works here. So did you try out any of the techniques? We know from the forum that some of you tried out. The people who are on this live session, did you try out and what was your experience? Would you like to let us know?
Can we type something in the
Yeah, we can.
right? Say that
They want to say something.
Inviting, some message, suppose some places there is no audio working.
Good.
Is it coming?
Maybe we should click on that, say something.
Cursor should be there. Yeah.
Okay. So the green buttons are from here.
Yeah. There is something. Can you tell us something about any research happening in this area? And what do we do at TLC? Not sure if this is covered. Research.
Bharti.
Oh,
Okay.
This is Bharati from our own entity.
She's starting out the thing.
Okay.
You're not supposed to say that. Prasad is probably the best person to take that up. He knows all the research that's happening
something about any research happening in this area and what we do at TLC. I'm sure it has been covered. We can talk, no?
Yeah, we can talk.
Yeah, I mean, Teaching Learning Center in IIT Madras, we talked the way that it was formed. Informally, there was a group of faculty started in 2009, where I think the first faculty development program was conducted in IIT Madras. It was in 2009. But the center was formally inaugurated in 2011. And our main activities are, it is there in the website also, conduct a workshop for faculty and train teaching assistants in our campus and conduct programs about discussions regarding teaching learning in classroom, finding suitable methods which are effective. And I think as far as research is concerned, we have recently received a funding from MHRD, where we committed to develop a curriculum for different science and engineering subject disciplines. So this curriculum is called TPAC curriculum, Technology, Pedagogy, and Content Knowledge. So that means how to enable the teaching learning process by choosing the right technology, the right pedagogy, and blend them for better learning. So in that aspect, last semester, we carried out a few attempts to collect data from IIT Madras classroom. Data collection is over, the analysis is still going on. We need to see basically the intervention of a technology aid, whether it actually improve or decrease the learning in the classrooms. So those kind of research activities are going on. And we also try to do the different assessment practices in various science and engineering colleges. Another PhD student is working in that direction. It's not working in TLC, but in humanities department, but TLC is guiding that student also. So these are the main activities carrying out. If Richa wants to add something on the TPAC thing.
Not much at this stage, what Professor Prasad mentioned. But yeah, last whole semester, we did carry a lot of classroom observation where we recorded data based on the pedagogy as well as the student response when a particular technology was used. So we are looking at the data, and hopefully next 2 or 3 months, we should have something more substantial to discuss on it.
Okay, there is one question. Unfortunately, I could not attend the 3rd and 4th assignments. Will it affect the examination results? I think Steffi is best suited to answer that. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, you're supposed to have at least 3 assignments first, so it will affect your final score. There's nothing we can do about it at this stage.
You have answered the first two. There were 4 assignments which carry the best 3 out of the 4 assignments carry 25% weight toward the final marks. So it's about 1/3 of 25% that you'd be missing out, which may not be much. If you do well in the exam, I think that will get taken care of. So I would very much encourage you to go ahead, prepare well, and do well in the exam. If you have that orientation, if the certificate is important for you. As I mentioned earlier, the main learning from this course comes by internalizing whatever was given and trying out at least some of these aspects in your classes. And if you've done that, then you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good score.
Yeah, those are very good scores. 75 and 80 are very good scores. So you don't have to worry too much about that small thing that you'd miss out. Please go ahead and do well at the exam.
Okay. I would like you to just, tell us if any of you have visited the Teaching Learning Center website. Please type, yes, I have visited the Teaching Learning Center website of IIT Madras. Okay, even as you type, I will add to what others have said because I am a core team member of Teaching Learning Center. So at Teaching Learning Center, what we like to do is to give very practical advice to people who want to teach in a manner in which their students learn well. So we conduct faculty development programs. We tell people how they can make a difference. And many of the measures that we have advised to students, to the teachers, we have the feedback that they have found these to be effective. For example, we also train students, research scholars, who would like to participate in teaching as teaching assistants and give them specific advice on how they can handle classes. So later on, they will use this experience if they become teachers.
I think Teaching Learning Center at IIT Madras was the first teaching learning centers in engineering
system.
In the IIT system, definitely, and even in engineering education, early engineering education. And I think the IIT Madras TLC has helped set up other TLCs in various places. They conduct a lot of programs every throughout the year. Things are going on well for the past 6-7 years.
And some of us have published papers on education. So GK and myself, for example, I have published in IEEE Transactions on Education, 3 papers. And GK has published in Chemical Engineering.
Chemical Engineering Education, as well as the European Journal of Engineering
Education.
Those two.
So apart from our specializations, such as my specialization, for example, is in semiconductor devices, we also, publish some papers on education, which is about doing teaching well.
Yeah, we have an interest in the learning process and done some experiments, and that is disseminating that information for the benefit of everyone else.
And maybe I should add, it just dawned on me that I happen to be the associate editor of IEEE Transactions on Education. So any of you is in electrical engineering. And
so he's a big man.
So you can, you can refer to the journal and see how world over people are trying to improve their teaching, what kind of experiments they are doing, and so on.
I guess they asked a lot of questions during the course itself. We had a very lively interaction. I'm happy to see that, and it was fulfilling to be able to answer the questions. Some of them were challenging. Questions were challenging because people with experience or with a lot of thought in the process participated in the discussion. That was very nice. It was fulfilling. It was a very fulfilling experience. These singing things work well. A lot of singers do these live sessions, I think, on YouTube. So they at least keep singing something.
I was thinking about that.
So I think maybe.
Do you sing?
No. Many times on Facebook and stuff, such live session comes, and you're just amazed how many people are typing. We cannot cope up. But I'm thinking there's a big difference.
Timing and things like that.
Maybe a lot of people would be finishing work now. So
Yeah,
after
right.
5:30, we could start getting more questions.
We'll see. We'll leave it to them as to what to do with the time.
So far, only 2 people typed something. Vrinda and
One
some
person
Ellen.
actually.
Just one.
Okay, let me ask Vrinda. If you are a teacher, what is the area in which you are teaching? Can you please let us know? I'm asking Vrinda, who responded earlier.
Yeah,
There's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, this is usually it. A friend is typing is not coming here. That at least keeps you anticipating. Sometimes it goes on and on and on and nothing comes.
Yeah.
The person decided.
This says typing.
Yeah.
Even Bharati can tell us if she wanted to know something more about PLC.
Use this as an opportunity. Something that you always wanted to ask, but did not ask.
I was hoping Bharti would type when somebody asked who has visited TLC. At least she could say yes. But,
Are you sure that that number is the number of login people? 200?
No, I don't
think so.
so. There's some
Because even when Vrinda was typing, I did not see a 1 there. Or
One
anything.
typing
I mean,
or
nothing
anything,
happened.
yeah.
maybe 200 pages is maximum there. I don't know. But why should it be 0? Should we stay on for the entire time, or we can ask them what the practice is? Wait for 5 minutes.
No, I think we should. I think it's like the entire 1 hour to be open. So they can come in
They will
anytime.
come
Anytime.
anytime and
Okay.
then ask.
Oh,
yeah.
then we are,
It is,
we are logged
then we
in.
need to be there.
Yes.
Vrinda left already.
So maybe it occurs to me what we should be doing is we should chat among ourselves about the topic.
Yeah, that'll be good. What do you want to chat
So,
about? Let's chat.
and then that is for
Yeah.
others, but it should be something that will have interest to others.
No, we can
So
do that
let's
a priori.
let's
Yeah.
talk about attendance in the class.
Oh boy. Okay.
You know how teachers have this. Many places I have
It's
gone.
okay. I can see everybody except
Yeah.
GK.
Many places where I have gone for this faculty training, they told us that, no, sir, but how do we take attendance in large classes? So I proposed one method, and I said I have tried this out and it has worked. So I would like to know what other methods other teachers adopt. So I will tell you what I suggested, what I have tried out. So I divided the class into groups of 4. So let's say I have a class of 80 students. So there are 20 groups formed. And all the students know in which group they are. And then I have numbered the groups 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 20. Then in one of the weeks, I asked the students to sit group-wise so that they really come to know each other. Not only by name, but they actually sit together in the class. They may not interact, but in the class I may lecture, but I'll ask them to sit together. That is, suppose there are 2 on a bench, so 2 people of the 4 people of one group, they will sit one behind the other. That is the way. But this is only for the first, let us say 2 or 3 days, so that they get to know each other. And thereafter, I take the attendance, I just call out group 1. And the moment I say group 1, all of them who are from group 1 should raise their hands. They can sit anywhere they like.
Oh, you reduce it by 1/4.
Yeah, 1/4. And what happens is, in most cases, let's say there are only some 6-7 students who are absent.
There's a lot of things. We'll come back to this. Yeah. It says, is it possible to incorporate teaching orientation module before any faculty member joins the technical institute? Yes, I think we do have that already here.
Here, and
the Teaching Learning Center takes care of it. Yeah. As currently, there is no B.Ed kind of mandatory eligibility before joining any technical institute, which has its own positives, and the negatives are that the teachers are not trained in the learning process. That's why we have work that TLC does, great work that TLC does. We do have training programs for teachers, right? We
offer training program to all the engineering college teachers. We also offer teaching modules for students who wanted to join in academy. So like a future teacher.
So I know a little bit about central universities because I have been on the review committees of these universities. So what I have come to know is central universities, they have a compulsory teaching orientation program for all teachers.
So there are,
yes.
I mean, with TLC, we are also having these MHRD initiative where we are running a 1-month faculty development program, induction program for the new faculty members who are within the 1 year of their joining.
So is this for everybody in the institute or outside also?
Outside. This is for outside.
And the courses like these also contribute towards that of training people who don't have any experience. That's where we start out this process. No B.Ed. Okay, that is the last comment. I think we can go back to our attendance.
So I was saying the attendance. So you divide the class into groups of 4, and you call out, say, group 1. All the members of the group 1 who are present should raise their hands. And if there are less than 4 hands, then other group members should quickly tell me who is absent. So I found it's possible to finish the attendance in less than a few minutes, 2-3 minutes for a class of 80. So.
Class of 80, right?
Yeah. I have tried it out in a class of 80. Up to.
You said less than 2 minutes or less than 5 minutes?
No, less than, I said 3 minutes actually, because I have timed it.
Okay.
Yeah. If many are absent, of course, it takes longer. That is it. But I'm saying average for my class. That is how it was.
Okay. Any other input onto that?
Attendance.
I would say I have taken attendance in a privileged place where it was all scanning codes and scanning bars, so you don't have to worry about it. And
no, we have that here too.
So, and the other thing is, in the Western universities, a lot of universities do not have attendance as a compulsory criteria now. So that's also changed. So that's why I don't have much.
So that itself is debatable, whether attendance is required, attendance is not required. Our system considers attendance to be important and so on and so forth. Many systems don't consider attendance to be important. Once it is, we have this 85% rule and so on and so forth, we are bound to take attendance.
I stick to the old method. I mean, like calling the name. It may take maybe like 4 minutes. That is true. In a class of 60 to 70, I handle 4 minutes it takes. But advantage I see is the name. So there is a person, and she feels that there's a purpose in sitting in the class. At least once in a class, the name is uttered. So I think that has a special impact.
So actually, I agree with that. That the goal of taking attendance is not really a job of something that a clerk does, but it's a way to connect to people.
Yes.
So one thing I found, for example, in this group approach is that daily, if at least the group of 4 people have to raise their hands together, there is some at least loose bonding that develops. And I give assignments which they should do in a group. Then it catalyzes that kind of
ice breaking and things like that has happened.
It's automatically kind of. And it happens.
I've done a few things. I've handled up to 100 students in a classroom. and in a course about 400 plus, no, 800 plus and so on, and 700 plus and so on. Let's talk about where I've had direct contact. I fully agree with Prasad, and that's the way that I do things. I'm not very good with names, and linking names to faces, it goes a long way of knowing your students, and there's a certain kind of input that you get by knowing the names and knowing the faces associated with the names and things like that. The entire atmosphere becomes different. The kind of care that you have for the students gets across very effectively if you call out the names. And all it takes is, I am doing it right now. I'm teaching a course, I'm coordinating a course of about 400 students, 420 students, and which is in about 5 different sections. So my class has about 85, 90 students. And I call out and I time myself every time I do that, and it takes me about 3 to 4 minutes. And so the first time for the first class, I might take a little longer, about 6 minutes, because I'm figuring out which name they are comfortable with. The entire name is there, the first name, last name, middle name, and so on and so forth. So which one are they comfortable with is what I figure out, and then use it and tick it there, and I use that from the next class onwards. All it takes is 3 to 4 minutes. If you can afford that, then it's great, and I think that helps bring in the human aspects, or improves the human aspects in the classroom atmosphere itself.
Yeah, I think there is
We
a
have one
comment.
more, okay.
New rule of PhD duration counted as experience. Is it applicable to PhD at IITs?
I'm not very...
Actually, I don't know whether he means whether people who want to join as faculty to IIT count that as an experience, or what exactly is it? I think that's what
I don't think so. Right?
Huh?
I don't think that...
PhD duration.
Yeah, I think in some sense...
name of the gentleman who posted the previous 3 questions is Lalit Anjumkar. Yeah, it's in Hindi. Yeah, I figured that out, because I can read Hindi. And Hindi and Urdu, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, Hindi and Urdu. And what you can...
No, you can say that out also. I think they are able to hear you.
Yeah.
The
question is not very clear. There is
new rule of PhD duration counted as experience. Is it applicable to PhD at IITs?
What is the new rule?
How would you interpret this question? Is it for the faculty who are selected to IITs, or is it for people who do PhD in IITs and then go and become faculty elsewhere? I'm not really sure.
What I'm gathering is he's asking if he has taken PhD for more than 4 years. Is that counted as an extra experience?
No, this comes in all these formalities.
No, to join as a faculty member.
Members, yeah.
To join as a faculty member.
So if you want to join as faculty member, if you have done more than 4 years, like 5 years of PhD, will that be considered as extra experience? That's what I
no, I think what people are asking is, see, there is something called research experience. So now, do you count the PhD period as research experience or not? Is I think so. I think the latest thing is that people do count, because that is the only reason why people are actually sometimes taken as a faculty even after they have finished their PhD. Some places,
right? It depends on the appropriate place. So the institution would know better than us.
Yeah. So how much research experience, I think, depends on the institute. But I think nowadays there is a tendency to include that PhD period.
As experience period.
I think not the entire PhD, but like what you are saying.
If you have taken beyond the usual time.
So, or I don't know. Not beyond the usual time. I think maybe 3 years or something like that. Because first 2 years you are not.
Jobs they do it, is it? Yeah, you'd be more familiar with that.
For jobs, industrial, this thing they do it. But I do not know about academia.
So they count PhD as 3 years research experience?
Yes,
I think that is the thing. Because what happens is you assume a 5-year duration. First 2 years you're kind of getting trained.
The coursework
and then
because we don't do that for faculty members in IITs. The PhD period is not counted as experience.
He's saying to join as a faculty member.
UGC to consider time spent on PhD research as teaching experience. March 2016 news reports. Comment.
So actually, now in this context, I just want to mention, this is where IIT Madras has started this teaching assistantship training. We take it very seriously, because we are using our research scholars for teaching purposes. So they help us in tutorials, in correcting exam papers, and invigilation and so on. So definitely, if people have done something like this, some of it can be counted as teaching experience later on.
Okay, we talked of attendance. Anything more about attendance? So how does the student feel about it?
Yeah, let's have that is good.
I think the face-to-face attendance makes a huge difference to the student, because you look at the student knows that you know who I am. So I think that makes an impact on the student.
I'm currently a PhD at IIT Delhi. Okay, that's input from
The same person.
Same person.
Lalit
Yeah.
Anjumkar. And Akash says how to increase the industry collaboration with institute, as our institute is not in industrial area. Wow, I think IIT Madras is doing a great job in you know.
So what I would say is, see, for having industry collaboration, you don't have to be near an industrial area, right? You just have to go and tell the industry people how you can help them. Because let me spend a couple of minutes on this. Normally, the feeling in industry people is that these professors in educational institutions are ones who can give nice lectures and talks, but they don't have hands-on experience, which is what an industry needs. But in IIT at least, I know that professors are not merely those who go and teach in the class. They have actually very good hands-on experience, and they can help industry, solve their problems. So the way to increase this interaction is for a professor to go to an industry and tell them that what are the problems related to the industry that they have the potential to solve. So that way, even if the industry is not next to your institution, they can collaborate. People can be anywhere in India and they can collaborate.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Who wants to take that?
You start.
This question was raging across the world about a decade ago, when all this online thing became big. And the question is, if we students can learn from the best teachers on NPTEL, what is the need of regular classes except tutorials and projects? It was so widespread that people thought education will undergo a sea change. They thought that universities would shut down. But that has not happened for various reasons. I've been reading some of those. Some of the thoughts that have been put forward are, yes, you do get information, but information is only a very small part of the learning process. The atmosphere in which you participate, your special requirements that are met by the professor without you knowing about it, that's what the professor is supposed to do. All these are the ones that contribute to the learning as a whole. Just information is one part of it. Important part, yes, but one part of it. So I think there is a big need. I mean, it has been proved over the past 6-7 years that there is certainly a big need of regular classes, regular interactions, and so on and so forth. Just online thing is nice. It is like having a good book, slightly better, much better than a good book. But to learn properly, an atmosphere is required. Proper classrooms are required. Would somebody?
I just want to. My input will be virtual university, right? I mean, that's what basically virtual university will be a reality if artificial intelligence is 100% achieved. Till that, I think teacher has a role, because most of the learning happens through feedback. For that, there should be a person with you, and then question answer or interaction. Through that, not by listening to another person or getting this information is not enabling the complete learning. Complete learning happens when somebody checks your learning or somebody gives a feedback on that. And that somebody is the teacher in the classroom. So I don't think it is, right now it is not possible to think of complete online programs.
Prasad, I also have another point to make. Artificial intelligence, fine, but will it take care of the emotional aspect of things? There's a huge aspect.
It's a long way.
So that's what, that road is long way if it comes in a complete format.
Whether it can even do
We
that,
don't know
whether
whether it
it is
comes.
fundamentally possible to do that, I'm not
They
sure.
are
We don't
working towards
Yeah,
on the
huge efforts are
emotional
going
or,
on.
you know, other
So,
sensory aspects.
yeah, yeah.
But I think we are talking way far too ahead.
But until that, yeah.
So I wanted to add to that. See, one of the things is live interaction, which happens in a classroom. So what happens in many of the NPTEL lectures, they are recorded lectures where you listen to them. And if you have any doubts and so on, you can ask later on. Whereas in a live class, what happens is you can watch, I mean, you meaning the teacher can watch students' faces and so on and figure out whether whatever he or she is teaching, the students are absorbing or not, and then ask a few questions. Similarly, the students can ask teachers a few questions. So that interaction, I think, is very important. If we can simulate that as well in NPTEL courses in the form of some live interaction, then yes, the impact of these courses will be tremendous. And also, impact of video courses is much stronger than impact of web courses, because video courses are able to simulate the classroom experience much better than a web course.
So what I wanted to add on this and taking it further from all three members is teachers should not be seen only as the content provider, but we need to project or rather be a role model, which happens in an interactive classroom. As I mentioned earlier, in the Deakin University, where I was a faculty member, attendance is not compulsory. And the reason why attendance is not compulsory is the environment is encouraging for working people, but each and every lecture is actually recorded live. And many times I have asked my students who would always come for live lectures that these lectures are always being recorded. Why are you here at 7 a.m.? And they would say, we always learn better when we see or hear this lecture in a classroom rather than going through the content in an online format. So there's always this what do you call as a holistic learning, which happens in the classroom rather than just going through, online or recorded lectures.
And how people learn is a very complex process.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fully understood. So.
I think it's the interaction which they enjoy in a live classroom.
Yes.
Interaction with classmates also
Absolutely.
helps a lot.
Significantly. Yeah.
So
according to our philosophy, 25% of the learning comes from interaction with peers.
Yes.
So just a small thing I want to add. Say, I have a video course on solid state devices, NPTEL video course on solid state devices, which many students watch during their BTech. And then they come here to do MTech and they sit in my live class. And then they tell us that they were very happy with the video course, but after sitting in my class, they feel that this is even better than a video course. So I asked them, okay, in what sense it is better? So he said, sir, your face is more serious on a recorded video lecture. Whereas in a live classroom, you are much more lively. So what I'm saying is this may be a small thing, but facial expression matters a lot. Matters a lot.
So you can read the student's expression and play off of that.
Yeah, you're interacting.
So,
you're in an interactive
so actually, GK made a very important point. So I was actually carrying forward that what the teacher radiates is not only intellectual content, but there is some emotional thing also that the teacher is radiating, which the students catch.
And learning happens. There's a huge emotional component to learning. Without that, it cannot happen.
It cannot happen.
That's what I'm realizing more and more now.
So if Dr. Prasad is okay, maybe we can encourage that if you really enjoyed this NPTEL course, you should come for the FDP program at TLC.
Exactly. Yes.
You would really find it more enhancing because you already have the content knowledge. You will really get the hands-on experience.
So there is one more question.
TAs usually take undergraduate tutorial practicals. I think TAs need to take classes, paper formation, comment. If TAs are completely responsible for the lab, I don't endorse that. I don't do my labs that way at all. I don't endorse that. TAs help significantly in setting up experiments and so on and so forth. But in terms of learning from those experiments, I think that is that's in the domain of the faculty member. The TAs are not trained or experienced enough to handle that, except maybe some with experience. Need to take classes, paper formation, yeah, if for appropriate training, yes. But I think when there is a faculty member, the main, this is one of the main things a faculty member does, which is teaching. I think that's a part of the job description. So I think that's the major responsibility, I think, lies with the faculty member. Appropriately, TA services can be utilized. But giving it all to the TAs is not an appropriate thing to do, is my opinion.
I think at least a few cases I know that in IIT Madras also, some TAs, not many in number, but a few TAs were asked to take classes by the concerned faculty. So probably the faculty might have seen that they are good enough to conduct a class. And then, but
I went through this currently, then I'll get back to you. The 420 student course that I'm coordinating is in 5 sections. And I plan it in such a way that this army of TAs report to me, not to the individual teachers. Okay. Because there is this possibility that they are asked to prepare slides, prepare lectures, or even give lectures and so on and so forth on the side. Mm-hmm. If the TA wants to do that, I think that should be encouraged. Okay, there's absolutely nothing wrong. The TA wants to be trained to be a better teacher and all that. I think that needs to be encouraged. Demanding a TA to do that, however smoothly you do that, I don't think is appropriate. And to prevent that, I in fact did this, and I've had to ward off a couple of faculty members saying, this is not expected of TAs and so on and so forth. We cannot misuse their services.
Yeah, I think now the discussion is really warming up.
Yeah,
because we are getting interesting
more questions.
Interesting
about
questions.
Motivation.
Yeah,
so before it goes off, I think
there are 3 more. So I just quickly I will add.
Yeah, to the first one.
Yeah, we can think of a hands-on in-person workshop at our TLC for candidates who complete the course. Yes, why not?
Definitely.
Let the students express their desire, and we will then give them a plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
It's all yes.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, the next one.
How to
motivate senior faculty members to teach as per outcome-based education system. Anybody?
That's senior.
All we would say is hard work.
Okay. Okay. So maybe I will tell you.
We are all senior.
Yeah.
Both of us are seniors.
So both
But
of us
we
are
will be
senior.
quiet on this.
So both of us, and we got convinced. Yes, we should do it like that. So
probably we were oriented that way right from the beginning, right from the time when we were juniors. So no, it is a challenge. I think it's a big challenge to motivate senior faculty members, because they think that they've been doing something for the past 30, 40 years, and 30 years at least, or 20, 30 years, and then that should be fine. Why should I choose something?
Okay, I will probably just give a hint of this. We can just ask people whether they like the tag of being a lifelong learner. Maybe we should work at that level, and if people agree that yes, lifelong learning is what should be the goal, then now in the backdrop of that, we can then introduce this concept of outcome-based education. And then why not we learn this? Even though you are senior, I mean, you are still a learner. So maybe one can try it like that.
I think in the TLC FDPs, there are a lot of senior members who come in.
Now they are
from other colleges.
From other colleges, even our own system, there are
they're participating.
Mehta and all those people near retirement.
But that component, as you said, basically that element is there.
The motivation is always there.
It's not like instilled from outside.
So I'll give one more example in this context about how to motivate senior people. See, if junior people start doing certain things and they are found to be effective, automatically others have to change, because everybody likes to be in good books of the students. So for example, I will give an example of this. Younger people are very good at using tools, right? For let's say in our department, I'm from electrical engineering department, I found younger people using this tablet very effectively. And then they record their lectures, and each lecture, after the lecture is over, it's available to students, and students say, this is great. So automatically, if students are happy with the younger people, with this particular methodology, then senior people have to follow suit, because otherwise they will not be in good books of students. So this is one way to motivate senior people, is for younger people to really make an impact using outcome-based education, and then others will have to follow suit.
I think this will reach most senior faculty. There'll be one or two recalcitrant that I don't think you should bother about. They'll get flushed out of the system with time, and that's okay. That I think is okay. I think there's one more question there. How can we encourage TAs to evolve into a dedicated future faculty member to be absorbed into the home institute need clarification. You are fully experienced on that, Karmakar.
How can we encourage TAs to
evolve
into a dedicated future faculty member?
To be absorbed into the same
Home
institute. Those are two different aspects.
Yeah.
Home institute is, we'll take it up separately.
Yeah.
But the first part of Karmalkar, I think, has the most experience.
No, if we do a good TA training program, and then basically we are able to motivate these research scholars by telling them the benefits of doing this TA duty. So this is what we do in our TA training programs, that we tell them that this TA duty is not a distraction from research. It is actually in the same direction as research. So for this purpose, the students should be told clearly what is the goal of this PhD program, for example. The goal of the PhD program is to get a license for teaching and guiding others. That's the whole purpose of the PhD program. So if you have a chance to actually try out your abilities at teaching and so on, here, there can be nothing better than that. So once students are told that that is the goal, then they find that this TA duty is very much in keeping with the objective of the program. So one of the issues is to motivate them and tell them clearly about what is expected out of a PhD program. So once we do that, then I find that TAs are motivated. For example, you tell them you learn communication skill helps you in life. You tell them that you get to explain ideas to students, and that way your own understanding improves, and so on. And many times when students ask you questions, you get ideas for research. So you get a chance to interact with the students, okay, who are very bright and then who are always curious and asking questions. So there are so many benefits of that. So once you initiate TAs into the TA duty with these ideas, and they actually taste the advantages of this, then they will definitely take to teaching profession later on.
You have anything to add?
I was just going to add, based on the earlier question also, where TAs are asked to take lectures or class. As a PhD student, I was asked to take 2 lectures during my final year of PhD, which I appreciated a lot. And the reason was it was a good learning experience and a very good experience given by my supervisor, that this is going to be your role as a future academic. Take this opportunity, and you always tend to learn better when you're going to teach a particular topic. So I think, as Professor Karmakar said, the role should be well defined. Yes. And explained to PhD students.
Okay, and then the second part of that thing is a slightly tricky thing. The home institute, you see, when research is an important aspect of a faculty member, and when somebody has worked with a guide, the relationship that the person has with the guide, especially in our system, is one of deference, is one of a board head, figuratively speaking, and so on and so forth. So the independence that is needed for a faculty member does not fully develop if the person comes back into the home institute. And that's the reason why IIT Madras especially has this, many IITs have this policy that for 3 to 5 years, we will not touch our, we will not consider our own students, our own PhD students to become faculty members, however good they may be. Okay, this is, of course, losing out on the great students, but yeah, that is the price that we have to pay for getting in a lot of people who are kind of average, who happen to belong to a group, a cliquish kind of a thing. Then the institute becomes completely spoiled. I have very strong feelings about it. The institute as a whole is essentially based on the quality. The quality of the institute is based on the quality of its faculty members. Faculty members need to be independent, strong people to take the institute forward, and that's one of the biggest strengths of academia. Academia is very different from industry. Academia has it's much bigger. I believe industry has a certain way to go about things and so on and so forth. That's perfectly fine. So there are processes evolved to take care of that. That is perfectly fine. But don't try to push it onto academia. Academia is a far bigger thing. It trains people for the industry. It trains people for various things. And that's one of the only things that they do. It provides a certain ideal system that people can look up to and benchmark themselves. And I think that is a big role that we play. And therefore, that needs to be carefully taken into account when you choose your faculty members. I think that's a very big aspect of it. I've had a lot of thoughts on it, especially when I've had to set up departments. I've set up a couple of departments, and that's a very big thing. I think there are two more questions. Student feedback, you may want to. Oh, student feedback. So student feedback, anybody can take them.
Yeah, I mean, that question is basically, he's saying the student feedback is more often underutilized or overlooked. Give effective suggestions to be incorporated into faculty appraisals. So we have, I think in TLC, we recommended recently to our director also, it's about making teaching portfolio. There is one document that faculty can actually develop during the entire semester. What are the things faculty does to enable learning? For example, faculty, I mean, teaching portfolio or course portfolio, there's a slight difference, but basically the portfolio elements are, teacher can write what is the teaching philosophy and what are the different methods which he or she use in the classroom, along with the result that the methods develop or resulted. So not only the methods that they used, but that methods, what effect it actually produced, whether it resulted in the better students' performance or it resulted in better motivation of the students, what impact it makes. So if you can document all these things as a appraisal, as a portfolio, that you can give it for evaluation, for teaching evaluation, or that can be used for understanding how the course was run, not only the student feedback. That is one thing I just wanted.
Anybody wants to add?
To add to that, so portfolio will consist of what the students felt about the teacher and the course, and then it will also consist of what kind of question papers were set in the exam. For example, all of us know that the quality of learning depends on the quality of questions. So that will be another important part of the portfolio. And the third thing will be policies. For example, in the beginning of this interactive session, we spoke about attendance. So there are teachers who feel attendance is not important. If so, they should state that is what was their his or her policy. If attendance was important, then, so a set of statements about what is the policy adopted by the teacher. So question papers, tutorials, assignments, then student opinion about the teacher and the course, and some of these policy matters. Together, this constitutes what we can call as a portfolio. So an appraisal of a teacher should depend on this entire document consisting of all these parts.
Next question is, how much is PhD student involved in policy making of premium institutes in our country? Is it not important as far as they remain as potential faculty members of these institutes? Okay, some other institutes maybe. In IIT Madras, there are student members in all the policy making bodies. So I think we take that very seriously. Steffi can add anything, if at all.
I don't have anything.
You don't have anything to add. So the next question is, need to develop a manual document to be approved and circulated in CFTIs to formalize TA duties for teaching. Yeah, I think we agree with that.
Yeah, I think there should be an institute-wide TA program.
TA program, yes, we are doing at IIT. So in fact,
can help. We can help, right? Yeah.
Definitely.
We can help, and that is why you please visit the TLC website to see what are all the activities done by TLC at IIT Madras, and then you can ask questions about any such specific things. We can help.
Nowadays, students are studying only for exam point of view or during exam. Now, how we motivate them, please give us some process if you suggest. I think the entire course was about that. I mean, students are students. They would view exams with great importance because of the way they've kind of been trained through their schools and so on and so forth. So we'll, at this level, at the undergraduate, engineering undergraduate level, we'll have to show them what learning is. If you look back at the course and look at some of the strategies that were said, some of the thoughts that were discussed and so on and so forth, that would give a good idea as to how to, motivate your students. Motivate a majority of your students. Some of them would probably not need that motivation. They are good anyway. Some of them would need a lot more motivation than what this is. But at least the majority of the people would be covered by this. If anybody wants to
just want to add one aspect. I think studying for exam as per, it's not a bad idea, provided if you can make a good exam.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
In a certain way, yes. Yes. In a certain, it also has its limitations. But in a certain way, if you can make good exams, then that can itself improve the learning because they'll prepare for that. they'll suitably prepare for that, their learning itself would improve. And yeah, that I fully agree.
In fact, in the faculty development program that we do discuss this point as to, how to motivate and how to increase learning of the students. For example, I'll make one point. So what is an examination? We should not think that at the end of the semester or year, whatever you do is the only examination, right? You can have, for example, every week some sort of short quizzes, and you can ask questions in the class to the students. So every such test, while you can give the marks obtained in the test, the weightage to that need not be the same as that of an end semester examination. So if you follow this procedure of frequent testing with not too much penalty in the beginning stages, and then there is one exam where you, of course, if you commit a mistake, you do pay penalty. So if you follow this kind of an approach, it is possible to motivate students to actually learn, not just to prepare for the exam. That is. And one more point I just wanted to add, which was about the teaching portfolio, which we discussed. This is in connection with what Late Anjum Kher has written, that students are the ultimate stakeholders of any educational undertaking. It is expected to give more weightage to students' performance in the course. Yes. So actually in the teaching portfolio, we mentioned that, what the students felt about the teacher and the course, that is student feedback, then question papers, then your policy about how you're running the course, and student performance. That is also a part of the portfolio. So how much marks did the students get, average, standard deviation and all that? Yes, that is an important part of the entire teaching record.
And then exam papers quality can also be taken in consideration. But student-centered teaching and feedback will rightly be used in faculty appraisals, comment.
Yeah, that is what we said, that question papers should form a part of the, your record of a particular semester teaching. So people can see what kind of questions you said. So that is the quality.
And also I'd like to add, I'm sorry. See, the quantifying quality is very difficult. That I think is the crux of the problem. It's very difficult to quantify quality. Whenever you try to quantify something, there's always some approximation that you make, and the essence is completely lost. I think quality has a lot to do with the essence of it. And the more we try to quantify it, I think there's going to be a problem. And even, a faculty member's contribution to research, if you go by the number of papers, I'm not sure. I'm certainly not sure whether it reflects the extent of contributions made to the body of knowledge. At IIT Madras, when I was the head here, we would get people. This is at the advice of the then director, Prof. Anand. We would get experts to read papers, 3 best papers of a faculty member or a potential faculty member who was applying, and then give their comments on the quality of work. So that, I think, is a bigger question which may need a lot more thought.
Yeah, I think GK made a valid point. I just want to take it forward a little bit. So we can identify 2 aspects of quality. Let's say we are talking about research, utility and originality. Now, both can be difficult to quantify. For example, utility may be easier to quantify than originality. But he has made a very important point. So that is why we should remember that there is going to be some amount of subjectivity in anything that is creative. And setting a good exam paper is a creative exercise. Yeah. So what is going to happen is, not all of them may agree upon what is the standard of the examination paper. But yet, like any research paper which undergoes a review, right? So we accept that there is some amount of subjectivity, but still we can give a subjective evaluation of the quality, right? So it is subjective, yes, in the sense that, everybody will not give the same marks. And you can have a situation where a person may say that this idea is really great, and another person may say, no, I don't find anything great in it. This can happen.
Yeah, that's the essence of the whole
that
thing.
Can happen.
That'll happen.
Yeah. So so the interesting thing about this quality of exam paper is, while the answers to the question can be definitely objectively evaluated, the quality of the question itself, there can be subjectivity in evaluation. So yes,
it's something like beauty.
Yeah,
you see that, it's beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, of course, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder too, but it's beautiful. But you're trying to quantify that, it's going to be the standard refrain is, can you quantify a mother's love for a child? That's what it is.
Correct.
The next question is, students are passing by studying the previous 3 years question papers of university. Please concern in this regard. So yeah, if they repeat question papers, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
We try not to repeat.
So the problem with the way that exam is designed.
There are a few aspects to this. There is a process in many countries where you have standard questions. You have standardized the question based on its difficulty level, based on how people have responded to it, and so on and so forth. And when you set up a question paper, you look for balance. You look for there's an overall aspect to it that you look for, that it is well set out. It caters to various sections of the class, and so on and so forth. So when you look for that, if you have a data bank of questions with difficulty levels marked, you can pick those questions and be reasonably sure of the kind of response that you're going to have from students, if you don't have an innate ability to guess how the students are going to. Some of us have that. Some of us can feel how these students are going to do by the way when we formulate new questions itself. Okay, that only some of us have. Otherwise, it is mostly based on experience and so on and so forth. That is highly quantified, the kind of difficulty level the question has based on the student responses and so on and so forth. But if people have access to these banks, question papers, and so on and so forth, that process becomes difficult, which is the case that we have. So we need to be a lot more creative. Even there, when you're setting up question papers, instead of putting together the entire question papers the same way as it was done in the previous years, if the kind of questions that go into the question paper change, or the details of the questions change to test the same kind of aspects, same kind of learning outcomes, and so on and so forth, or same kind of learning levels to be reached in a Bloom's taxonomy, maybe, that could solve the problem. It is not a very easy thing to do. Balance in the question paper is not easy at all.
Can I add to that? So in terms of course, we should totally discourage using the past year's questions. But once again, this mechanism might not be still prevalent in India, but what in my university, each exam questions would go what we call as standard setting, where 4 or 5 faculty members from different fields would go through the question paper and mark. What standard setting does is you have to think about what is your pass percentage marks and decide if your average students would find this question hard or tough. You do the scaling on 1 to 10, and then we look at the score, and based on what the score comes from average of 5 members, that's how the pass marks is decided for each exam. And we call that as Anghoff analysis, where each question paper undergoes through standard setting process. So these are different ways of, making the question paper go through review process, making it standardized, and getting feedback from the other faculty members rather than just using the questions from past years. So there are mechanisms to address these issues. Now the question is, how do we really implement it?
See, in autonomous universities such as IITs and so on and so forth, and there are many autonomous universities, the teacher has the flexibility to set the question paper.
Yes, you do set. But,
and then you can take care of many of these things. But
later,
the university system, then it becomes a lot more. Next question is, does anybody have anything else to add to the previous? One more question. Question formulation is on Bloom's taxonomy. We find some faculty members at IITs creative in question formulation. Yes, certainly. There are many creative people. Thank you.
I also wanted to add earlier that setting exam paper and question paper should not be seen just as something you have to tick the box. You should really enjoy that process.
Yes,
because you have to acknowledge that students are here to get good scores because they see as their future job and degrees. But we as a faculty member, it's our job to really make that process enjoyable for them as well as for ourselves, because when you set a good question paper and students perform well, it's a very good incentive for us, and it's a very good motivation for us to continue in this field.
Definitely. And it is, as Karmalku said, a very creative exercise.
Yes.
Each question paper, it's like finely balancing things.
Yes.
It gives you a high, really, to set a good question.
It's like really cooking well.
Very true. It's an art.
It's an art. Just how much you should add how much salt and how much that,
So if I'm setting